Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Just something that coaches wanted to do, and I didn't have a problem with it at all. We didn't make a big deal out of it. We really hadn't said much about it. Want to make sure that we kept it in front of our guys, because obviously it's been, a major thorn in our side and a major disappointment.
I know they had developed a countdown clock. Well, that week is here now that they've been looking for all season. And so, Clemson got a good football team. We got a good football team at times, and hopefully we can put a good football team out there next Saturday.
Tick, 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 tick. The clock is ticking down. Final days and the final hours until the big showdown between the Tigers and the Gamecocks. It's no longer, at least this year, the national game. It doesn't have major ramifications. All it means is to the people of South Carolina, it's their game. It's our game. We think it's the biggest game in the world. Doesn't matter what the records are. Doesn't matter what the rankings are. Doesn't matter what the ramifications are outside the state of South Carolina. I'll never forget Todd Ellis and Rodney Williams back when they were quarterbacking their respective teams against each other, and they commented prior to their last game, they knew for 3 hours that they and their teammates and their coaches were the most important people in South Carolina. Bigger than the governors, bigger than the representatives, bigger than big in the state of South Carolina for those 3 hours on Saturday. And it's time to do it again, guys, coming up at high noon in Death Valley. The Tigers opened up as 4.5-point favorites. That line has decreased to about what, 3?
About 3.5, depending on the book. I think the Win Vegas.
Watson playing someone set a line to the
the Win has set a line at it opened at 4.5, and now it's down to about 3.5. And I don't know that it's going to change a lot if Watson plays, just because nobody knows what he's going to be like when he plays. A 4.5-point spread, 3.5-point spread's about right for in favor of Clemson.
This over with, so nobody else will say it. So I get rid of it. There's only one person that needs a countdown clock. Drew Owens. That's the only person who needs,
an alarm clock.
Countdown clock.
Apparently.
Goodness.
Anyway, glad you're with us here on Sports Talk, making us your choice for Sports Talk listening here in South Carolina, the only show in South Carolina with hosts that actually see the Tigers and Gamecocks every week. We can make the claim here that one of us has seen the Tigers and Gamecocks play every week this season, so we feel like we can give you firsthand, honest interpretations and breakdowns of what we've seen from the two teams this year and how the players have reacted and how the coaches have reacted. So we invite your input all week long, beginning tonight and beginning right now. 800-956-7266 is how you can dial us up. Our email talkback@sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, the feed there. If you haven't signed up for our Twitter feed, do so immediately and join in on the fun. Our Twitter feed is @SportsTalkSC. Coming up, your phone calls. This is the week where it's what you have to say about the big game. We'll work in a little Steve Spurrier, a little Chad Morris, too. Oh, Clemson basketball won today as well. Back in a moment. Okay, we're back. It's Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network as we begin rivalry week here in South Carolina. And you know what we love to do during rivalry week. Of course, we'll keep you up to date on all the developments at USC and Clemson. Tomorrow is a Talking Tuesday, so we'll hear from the head coaches. More on Wednesday, Thursday, our specially recorded Thanksgiving night show for you. Friday, the eve of the game, we have our picks, we have your final thoughts, we have final evaluations, et cetera, et cetera. So we got a ton for you tonight here on Sports Talk. 800-956-7266 to your calls in just a moment. And as we get to your calls, feel free to take a shot at the other side, share a joke, share a memory, give us a pick, and tell us why you think your pick is going to be correct. 800-956-7266. Clemson basketball team just beat LSU a couple of minutes ago, 64-61. So the Tigers, after losing to Gardner-Webb in the first game for them in the tournament, Paradise Jams in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, Tigers come back and beat Nevada, and they beat LSU, so a good showing. Today, DeMarcus Harrison had 16 to lead the Tigers. Rod Hall had 14 points and 2 assists. And with a double-double, Jerron Blossom game, 10 points and 10 rebounds for him, 13 points for Dante Grantham, and Landry Noko had 8 points, 9 rebounds. So a good up-and-down-the-lineup performance there for the Tigers as they come away with the win, 64-61. They are now 3-2 on the season, as is LSU. A couple of other quick notes, and then we will to your telephone calls. P.J. Dozier, the state's top senior high school basketball player, top 25 national prospect, USC signee. His dad tells us that he had arthroscopic surgery recently on his right knee, and that's the same knee on which he had ACL surgery last year that cost him his junior season. Perry Dozier said the procedure was done to clean up some pieces in the meniscus cartilage. Dozier is not yet cleared by doctors, though his father said he feels fine, he's ready to play. He's hopeful his son will be cleared for their December 2nd opening game. Also, Dozier confirmed his 6'7" junior standout, Jordan Bruner, also had arthroscopic knee surgery recently to repair meniscus damage in the right knee suffered during a recent scrimmage. Dozier said Bruner will be out at least a couple of months. The USC women, now number 1 in the country in basketball by AP. First time ever that USC has held the number 1 spot, and it's a school record 14th straight week that South Carolina's been in the AP top 10. And as they were getting the news that they were number 1, they were leaving South Carolina and heading to the Bahamas, and the Gamecocks will take on Wisconsin Thursday at 4:15 p.m. in the first round of a tournament there. And I think we're good. So 800-956-7266 is the number. And we'll drop in more news notes as we move through the program. So let's jump in on the phone calls and go to Fred in Ainer. This could not be Freddie from Ainer, who we haven't heard from in, since before the Bojangles opened up in Ainer, I think. Freddie, how are you?
Man, I'm doing great, Phil. I hope all you guys are. Now this is a friend of Freddie's.
This is a different Freddie from Ainer.
Yeah. I've been trying to figure out something for a while.
All right.
For this whole year.
Uh-huh.
How in the world are we, and I say we, going to be able to put up 5 with fingers with one hand, 1 finger with another hand, and still hold on to a beer all at the same time?
You're referring to Gamecock fans, the problem they face in case they win the game. Exactly. How are you going to do that?
Yeah, they got to put down a drink because it takes 2 hands now.
Well,
that's what he's saying.
I
mean, he's saying, how's he going to with 5 and then
you can hold up one finger with a beer.
Hold up your index finger.
You could still,
Or if you don't mind looking silly, you can have one of those helmet hats with the cup on the top of the helmet and a straw.
Okay. I've been really worried about that. Just the assumption that we were going to get number 6, but
well, I would suggest that you practice some this week to get yourself ready, just in case.
Okay. I will do that, and I appreciate y'all's help and consideration on this matter.
All
okay?
right. Thank you very much. But I hate to rain on your parade. I don't think it's going to be necessary because I think Clemson's going to win.
Wow.
Yeah, Clemson's my pick.
Didn't you pick Clemson last year because Clemson's coming down here?
No. I don't think I picked him last year. I think I was right.
I picked Clemson last year.
Yeah,
I did pick Clemson.
I think the year before I picked Clemson.
Okay. I've been completely wrong. I think my streak's about as bad as the streak going against Clemson right now. But don't they have to win this game at home?
Well, my view is besides
number one
all
defense,
the psychological babble, when you look at the actual breakdown of the teams, I just think Clemson's defense is really for real and really good. I know people say, well, they haven't played in the SEC, la-di-dee, la-di-da, look at some of the competition. Well, they've done well against some pretty good offenses, some offenses that were kind of hot when they faced Clemson's defense and they got cooled off. I'm talking about NC State, which came off a big offensive game, got shut down. Talking about Boston College, which had a pretty good offensive game before Clemson, pretty much got shut down. So
you didn't Gamecock fans to say, yeah, but Boston College dropped a sure touchdown.
Well, true.
But they did, we can play the coulda, woulda, shoulda.
But I will say this. Again, that's why I don't know why you have the countdown clock, because I've said this the last 3 years. Clemson has not won the game and has turned the football over because they wanted it too much. Play a football game. Execute each play. Stop trying to beat South Carolina. Relax, take a deep breath, and you'll win the football game.
Well, the psychological advantage here has flipped to South Carolina. I think the approach now is, and what you're talking about hints at desperation on Clemson's side, desperate to win, because they haven't won in so long, thus the countdown clock, thus all the emphasis, thus moving senior day to a week early to avoid having to deal with that. Focus, focus, focus. We've got to win this game. That's their approach. South Carolina, having won 5 in a row, is sort of like, hey, been there, done that now for a while. We're going to give it our best shot. If we win, that's great. That's 6. If we lose, we'll try and start another winning streak next year in Columbia. I think they'll come in loose and goose. The question is, will Clemson be tighter than a violin in the Grand Ole Opry? And if they are, that's when they're going to make the mistakes, and that's when they're going to commit the turnovers. And as Dabo Swinney has said, during this losing streak, the Tigers have had 15 turnovers, I think.
To 3. And in the last 4 games, 12-1.
So those are the kind of mistakes that get you beat. All right, back to the phones, 800-956-7266. John in Greenville is up next here on the program. John, welcome in. How are you?
Phil, how y'all doing today?
Man, we're doing great. How are you?
I was just calling to say I heard on another radio station today that Deshaun Watson will not know if he's going to play, and nobody will know if he's going to play until you see him run down the hill on Saturday. So that Dabo is going to keep it quiet and is not going to let it out. I don't really believe that, but that's what they're saying.
Well, he's closed practices to everybody apparently this week. Not even friends and family can get in there, I guess. So they can keep it under wraps. But, I don't believe this is going to be – I could be totally wrong. He could be miraculously healed by the time Saturday rolls around. I don't think this game is going to hinge on Deshaun Watson. Even if he's healthy enough – if he's healthy enough to play, then he's healthy enough to start. I can't see him unless he just stands back in the pocket and gets rid of the football before being hit, which will limit what his effectiveness. If his knee is as gimpy as it appeared to be after the Georgia Tech game and as it continues to appear to be, I can't see how he can be very effective for Clemson. So this game's got to be more about Cole Stout, the running game for Clemson, how well Clemson's offensive line plays up front. And again, I don't think South Carolina's defense is going to miraculously morph into this great unit all of a sudden after struggling for 9 weeks. They played a little bit better the last 2 games, but they're already down a starting corner, Enrico McWilliams. Now you've got to move Bryson Williams over the corner, which takes him out of safety, which is where apparently they're better when he plays there. That's why I think Clemson wins this game, because they're going to score enough points against this USC defense, and I think their defense will be pretty tough to score against. Oh, yeah.
We caught Clemson at the right time. They were off a big win last week.
Shattering news. No real earth-shattering news here.
You know, South Carolina's enjoying a 5-year run in this series against Clemson. So what we're going to do every night this week is flash back to the comments of Sweeney and Spurrier following the games in this 5-game winning streak. So we begin going back to 2009, where the Gamecocks began this streak. Here's Steve Spurrier after the Gamecocks came away with the win in 2009.
We caught Clemson at the right time. They were off a big win last week and got a big game next week. And we hadn't done much lately, but we were ready to play. I told a lot of people, I know we're ready to play, but you still have to go play. You have to go play. And we didn't play perfectly. We had some mess-ups here and there. But anyway, it worked out. It worked out for us. I don't know, for some reason, when the other team runs back the opening kickoff, I don't know why it happens, but a lot of bad things happens to those teams. If you watch historically, that seems to happen. But anyway, we didn't mean to do that. We were trying to tell our first-time kickoff man, Yatesy, to kick it a line drive to the right. And then we said, after we got the offside penalty, we were going to try a line drive to the left. And he kicked it right perfectly, and we couldn't tackle C.J. Spiller. But anyway, we ran the ball. And that's obviously what we need to do to win. And a lot of people advise us to do that. And we took heed of that. We took heed that we needed to put the ball on the ground and not ask our linemen to pass block all that much. Both running backs, Kenny Miles had some outstanding runs, 115 yards, and Brian Maddox had some yards in there. But Kenny has a way of finding that open area, average 6.7 a carry. And Brian did some good, hard running in there. But also Stephon Gilmore. It only took us 12 games to put him in there. We're not the smartest coaches in the world, but he kept running up in there for yards, and we thought we could hit the pass over their head. And I'm telling you what, Stephon, he hits it every day in practice.
All right, of course, USC won that game 34-17. Dabo Sweeney won his first game against South Carolina as head coach, and it's been nothing but losses for him ever since. Here are his comments after that loss in 2009.
No real earth-shattering news here. We didn't do what it takes to win on the road. I mean, you go on the road and you turn the ball over, and then you can't stop the run. It's hard to win. I don't care who you're playing, where you're playing. That really was the story for today. We had an opportunity to really get off to a fast start and create a lot of momentum for our football team with a lot of points early, and we just turned it over. And that's extremely disappointing because we have not been doing that. We didn't really capitalize. And, when you're negative in the turnover margin, it's hard to win. And then when you don't stop the run, it's really hard to win. And that's basically what happened. I mean, it wasn't anything earth-shattering. We came right out of the gate. We go right. We're up 7-0. Then we go right down the field. We got a nice drive going. We get a bust by one of our players that hurt us, a potential chance for a touchdown. And then very next play, we fumble the ball, and they go down and get a touchdown off of it. And then we get another drive going, and we throw an interception.
All right, that's some of what Dabo Sweeney was saying back in 2009 when the Gamecocks started this streak, and we'll count it down through the week. Back in a moment. It is USC Clemson week all week long here on Sports Talk. Glad to have you with us. Hope you're looking forward to the week. Hope you're looking forward to the holiday and, of course, the big game on Saturday at 12 o'clock at Clemson. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Make sure you take a look at the website frequently, sportstalksc.com, and also follow us on Twitter. That'll link you to a lot of the stuff on the website. The Twitter location is @SportsTalkSC. You can also engage KMAC in some Twitter talk if you are so inclined. And on Facebook, you can like us there. Sports Talk Radio Network is the location. All right, 800-956-7266. Your picks, your thoughts, your observations about how the game will be played out on Saturday at Clemson. I've already said I think Clemson is going to win. I think it's going to be relatively low scoring. I would say in the neighborhood of thinking 20-17. Might go 20-17. The Tigers right now, that's right on the cover line, 20-17. Your pick, K-Mac, is?
I think Clemson's going to win too. I hate doing numbers.
You don't have to pick a score.
Yeah, I think right now.
Do they cover?
3.5, 4 points. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much a score. So yeah, I do think it'll be a fourth quarter type of game, but I think Clemson's going to win at home.
I was sure Clemson was going to win until I definitely saw the kickoff time, which I think is a disadvantage for Clemson. I thought Clemson on a night game, fever pitch, Gamecocks were ready to be had. This noon kickoff, I think, is a detriment to the home team. Both teams.
I agree. I think because the visiting team is going there on business.
That's correct.
They have a business mindset. It's go to the hotel, get on the bus, go play the game, and go home. And it's a whole different atmosphere for the home team. So you might be right. So you're picking.
I'm still picking Clemson, but it's unsure and shaky now because of the noon kickoff.
We are all picking the Tigers. That could be dangerous. 800-956-7266. The new FCS poll, Coastal drops to number 6. Of course, in the playoffs, they get a first-round bye, so it really doesn't matter. They can prove it on the field.
Now, I wasn't here Friday. Did you interview Coach Bogley on Friday?
We interviewed the quarterback, Alex Ross. Not on Friday. We did that on
Wednesday, I think. Wednesday or Thursday.
No,
but that was I was watching that in the press box, you know, and Liberty kicked the field goal to go up by 2 points or 1 point with 90 seconds or so left. And then I looked away and looked back, and Coastal was right down there inside the 10, inside the 5. So they're going to win this thing. Blocked. By the way, be sure to check out our Twitter feed now and our Facebook page. We've been getting some submissions, funny pictures that sum up the rivalry, whether they're humorous or most of them have been humorous. Be sure to submit those at Sports Talk SC or go check out what we have at Sports Talk SC or Sports Talk Radio Network on Twitter. Some really good stuff coming in from people, funny stuff that fans have accumulated over the years.
All right, back to the phones we go. Let's see if we can be funny there. We're going to be real serious this week. Ben in Georgetown, hello, and welcome to Sports Talk.
Okay, guys, how you doing?
Hey, Ben, good to hear from you.
All right. Pro, I'll take the 08 noon kickoff again if we can get that.
Oh, okay.
The main two things I'm hoping Watson can play is like y'all were talking about earlier. All this emphasis and pressure that Clemson put in the game. I think Watson would go out there just like Athens and he just won't care. I see Stout if things kind of slug, and I see him kind of maybe it builds on him a little bit more on the pressure. And also, I think, assuming that Watson can at least drop back and plant and throw, not necessarily run out, maybe have a game plan where he's just going to throw and you don't take sacks, you don't scramble, because I think we need to, the Carolinas I think they're going to kind of stack it up there. So I think we need, he's still a better downfield thrower than Stout.
All right, so you would go with a Watson and say, if they let him play, you'd go at Watson and say 75% effectiveness over Stout?
If he, I'm not there to practice to see how he's planting and throwing the deep ball and everything. I'm assuming that he can do it.
Yeah,
I would. Yeah,
and that's the big question. Now, 60% Deshaun Watson, is that better than a 100% Cole Stout? And that's only the coaches know that. And I asked Dabo Sweeney and Chad Morris this after the game Saturday. At what point do you have to say in the week, you know what, Cole's our guy? And Dabo said Monday. So right about now they're figuring out what he can do, because Cole Stout has not done well when he's been thrust into the job when he's not prepared for it. He's had his best games when he's prepared as a guy and gone out there and been the starter. I think that the Tigers are going to have to figure out who they want to go with, and if it's going to be Cole, it has to be Cole. And you go from there. You can't wait around till Wednesday and say, okay, how do you feel now, Deshaun? But either way, there's no way they're going to be able to run Deshaun the same way they were running him against Florida State and North Carolina and Georgia Tech. He is going to be wearing a brace, certainly, if he plays. He's going to have one of those cumbersome braces that Connor Shaw, and people want to talk about that. Remember, Connor Shaw, he did come back the next week against Missouri. I don't know if he bruised, but he had a sprained knee. He had -8 yards rushing in that game. He stood in the pocket and completed a lot of screen passes quick, but he could not run. In fact, the next few weeks, he really struggled running the ball. He was not the same runner post-knee sprain at Tennessee as he was pre-knee sprain at Tennessee. So Watson won't be the same quarterback if he plays on Saturday.
All right, let's go to North Augusta. Ronnie, you're up next here on Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, Phil. Well, thank God I finally have reason to feel confident.
How's that?
UK, Mac, and Pro, I never heard y'all three agree on anything.
I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming.
Hey, Phil, I tell you that you know your football. I'll give you credit for that. And Clemson's defense, I think you've been spot on with that. Oh yeah, they do have a heck of a defense, but I do think it is a totally different ball game if Watson doesn't play. Watson makes Clemson's offense go because the one thing he can do, but Stout can't. Watson reads defenses. He gets the ball out of his hand fast, and Stout. That team, how many times if they didn't sack him maybe 2 or 3 times, they pressured him a bunch up there Saturday too. I mean, that's Georgia State. And what you said about Carolina's defensive line, I've watched Clemson all year long on either live or replay, and I honestly think they will be one of the worst offensive lines we faced all season long.
Well, it will take that for South Carolina to get pressure because they didn't get any pressure. Well, they did have 3 sacks against South Alabama,
which was their season high.
Yeah, they don't get a lot of pressure without blitzing.
This might be the worst defensive line Clemson's faced all season long, outside of maybe Georgia State.
On the flip of it, let me say this, just to flip it back to Clemson's defense. I think Grady Jarrett could have a field day against South Carolina's center, whether it happens to be Alan Knott, who's got a little bit of a knee thing going, or I don't think Cody Waldrop's going to play any, or the Stadnick kid, especially with them floating those shotgun snaps back to Thompson. I mean, Grady Jarrett's one of the best nose tackles in the country. I think South Carolina's going to have their hands full with him. They may have to double team him a lot, which is a dangerous thing to do because his partners are good across the defensive front. Sean Elliott, what kind of blocking scheme do you draw up to deal with Grady Jarrett? You got to deal with, of course, Vic Beasley coming off the edge. If you try to run away from him, he's fast enough to run you down from the backside. A lot of problems there from a blocking standpoint for South Carolina.
I just think early on you run away from the point of attack. I mean, because if you feel that Clemson is sort of very, very hungry to win this football game, they're going to react quickly. And I know Steve Spurrier doesn't like misdirection, but sometimes you have to do it just to let them know, we're going to go away from the point of attack. You see the flow of the blockers in the ball carrier or the pass receiver may go across the field, and they're going to hit them that way. So I think a lot of misdirection is restored early.
Pharaoh Cooper. Now, Pharaoh Cooper could be a difference maker for South Carolina. Get him going big in a variety of ways. Wildcat. Now, one thing that Spurrier showed a lot, I don't know if that was sent as a message to Clemson or not, but 3 different backs taking the snap from the Wildcat. And how much he's going to use that coming Saturday to try to move the football and eat clock and keep it a short game. But that's something to keep in your mind as well. Cooper, Williams, and Wiles. Not to mention Mike Davis if he holds on to the ball. Hey, coming up, of course, it's the South Carolina Electric Cooperative's 2014 Touchstone Inter 13th in Myrtle Beach. Make sure you make plans to be there. Right around the corner, see some of the top players in the state go at it at Doug Shaw Memorial Stadium. Recruiting coming up in a little bit. David Shelton in our next hour to talk high school championship games coming up on Friday. I was over at the press conference today, had a chance to talk to all 8 coaches, and we'll hear from them coming up on our special edition show on Thanksgiving night. We've got 4 championship games to be played on Friday in Columbia, the 1As and the 2As. We'll hear from Chad Morris talking about who else? Deshaun Watson. And Steve Spurrier from his conference call yesterday. He'll talk again tomorrow, but get a little taste of what's on his mind going into rivalry week. Back to your calls. And we go to Tim in Charleston next up on Sports Talk. Hi, Tim, and welcome in.
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Hey, well, I just wanted to make some of my picks, but yeah, I went to school for math and PhD for statistics, but football is all my life. I played a couple sports professionally, but I've been studying college football for years, down to like how teams do against certain formations, and I've put together some things, and I like South Carolina in this game, just because that offense, I think what the lowest output of the year was 26 or 28. They're going to put up their points, and that Clemson defense, I agree, it's very good, but I'd say that the ACC is very weak this year. But when Clemson actually had to face a two-dimensional team like Georgia and North Carolina, they almost gave up 500 yards in each of those games. You know, Boston College is a one-dimensional team. They just run the ball, and Clemson is good at shutting down one-dimensional teams like Georgia Tech and Boston College. But against two-dimensional teams like a South Carolina that's putting up points and can run it or pass it, I just know South Carolina will put up the points, and I don't know if Clemson can put up the points to match them with. If Deshaun Watson was healthy, I'd say yes, but I think that he's not going to be able to move too much. And I know South Carolina's going to try to bring extra pressure, whether it's him or Stout back there. And I just think South Carolina will outscore them. That's just what I think.
Got a score for us? You got a score?
I like South Carolina about 27-17, almost same as last time there. And I think Dylan will be confident knowing that he went up there and won that game last time. So I'd say something similar to the last score.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Well, you make a couple of good points there. I mean, Georgia did put 45 on them. They did hold Florida State in overtime to 23 points, but they did have some yardage on them. But that's a game Clemson should have won if they don't fumble the ball late. North Carolina would probably be the most eye-opening one because they allowed 35 points and a lot of yards to the Tar Heels, but they do have a good offense. But after that, with the exception of Georgia Tech, and they did a pretty good job defensively against Georgia Tech, considering how good they are running the ball and considering that Clemson had no offense that day. They did a pretty good job. I still like Clemson's defense. I still think it's very, very difficult to drive the ball down the field against in long series. I don't know that South Carolina is going to be able to do that. Now, they might be able to get some things going on the ground and then rise up and hit something big over the top. I think that's what it's going to take for them to have success. We go to the phones again, and it's Alan in North Augusta. Hello, Alan, and welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey, Phil. How are y'all?
Man, we're doing great.
Good to hear. Oh, Ronnie sounded fairly well spoken tonight, man. We appreciate him putting his teeth in before he called.
That helps.
Oh,
that
man,
helps.
why are you picking on my man Ronnie? He didn't insult me, so
I'm
gonna stick up
for
for
me too.
You know, when you do have your teeth in, that cuts down on the whistling in your words. Yeah, so I didn't notice that today. Yeah,
yeah. No, really, as bad as South Carolina's defense is, Clemson's offense is equally as bad with Cole Stout back there. And honestly, I don't know that we can win the game either without Watson. But I'm glad y'all feeling good about it, but I'm not feeling that good about it.
I mean, they beat Boston College, a very good defense. Boston College, you saw they gave Florida State all they wanted in Tallahassee. They're not a bad team.
No, they're not.
And Louisville. I was more impressed with them.
They're late. Now, granted, the defense scored a touchdown in that game, and that's what it comes down to. If Clemson doesn't turn the ball over, they're going to win the game. With Cole Stout or with Deshaun Watson, they will win the game if they don't turn the ball over.
I don't think South
Carolina's defense. We can't run the ball. Our offensive line is terrible.
Let me tell you, they're going to run that screen pass until their tongues drop. They're going to run Artavis Scott on the jet sweep until his tongue drops. And if you don't, you're stupid, because South Carolina doesn't tackle well. They don't take good angles. And those guys are fast. Get the ball to Mike Williams. Get the ball to Artavis Scott. You're going to move the ball against the South Carolina defense. I'm sorry. South Carolina's defense just hasn't showed me that they can measure up against talented offensive players. And Clemson has, with Cole Stout in or out, they've got other talented offensive players. All right, let's give you the recruiting report for tonight, brought to you by South Carolina's Electric Cooperative, sponsors of the 2014 Touchstone Energy Bowl, December 13th in Myrtle Beach. And yesterday, USC gained a commitment from receiver Christian Owens, 6'5", 210, Griffin, Georgia. Was expected, as he had been favoring the Gamecocks strongly after decommitting from Georgia earlier in the month. A big receiver, as I mentioned. As a junior, had 23 catches, 600 yards, 3 touchdowns. His season is ongoing, and that gives the Gamecocks 28 newcomers for this class, including the holdovers for 2014. Defensive lineman DJ Jones, Wren in East Mississippi, JC, was at Florida State Saturday. He loved it, and even though it was in the rain, this was an unofficial visit, but his first chance to see a game. He spoke with Jimbo Fisher and his recruiter Jay Graham and defensive line coach Odell Higgins. And despite the commitment, he's still looking around. USC, Ole Miss, Auburn, Alabama remain on his list as well. He's going to take an official to Ole Miss this weekend. He plans to visit South Carolina this week when he's home. Coming home tomorrow, he plans to visit USC one day this week. On track to graduate in December. Will sign during the mid-year signing period, which begins December 17th. USC commitment Marquavius Lewis took an official visit to Auburn over the weekend, still committed to USC, but now giving Auburn some consideration. Receiver Darius Slayton of Norcross, Georgia, took an official to USC over the weekend, enjoyed it, called it a great school, hospitable, great time, checked out the offense closely, likes how they throw the ball, likes how they get receivers involved in the offense, et cetera, et cetera. Talked to Spurrier, got his take on the Gamecocks' future. He said he's a cool guy, knows what he's talking about. He's very confident in the future of the football program. He plans to have a decision sometime this week. Not sometime this week, definitely, but sometime soon. Could be this week, could be next week, but sometime soon. No real timetable. Georgia and Tennessee, the other two under consideration. Linebacker Daniel Fennell, Loganville, Georgia, unofficial USC Saturday, will return January 23rd for an official. Will also take officials to Michigan State, Missouri, Duke, Georgia Tech, USC, and Tech, the only schools he's visited this season. Had a good time on his visit. No favorites right now. Running back Johnny Frazier of Princeton, North Carolina, had planned an official to USC over the weekend, didn't make it in. His coach said he'll reschedule. He's taken an official to Tennessee. And headlining Clemson's visiting group this past weekend, defensive lineman Christian Wilkins, Suffield, Connecticut, regarded as one of the top defensive tackles available. And he's going to visit Penn State this coming weekend, also considering Boston College, Stanford, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. He does not have a favorite. Keep in touch with recruiting on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, use hashtag STRecruiting. More calls coming up after the break. David Shelton, high school football breakdown as well. Chad Morris, Steve Spurrier. Stay with us here on Sports Talk Rivalry Week 2014. Be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Monday night as we kick off Rivalry Week 2014. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes. Good to have you with us over the airwaves, or if you're watching us on our live video stream, good to have you with us there. If you're listening to us on our live audio stream, good to have you there as well. 800-956-7266 is the number. Back to your phone calls we go. And it's Billy and Florence up with us next here on Sports Talk. Hello, Billy. How are you?
I hope you guys are doing well, Phil. And I like y'all's pick. I got just a couple quick points to make, but I was going to ask you something, Phil. Are you going to make that trip to Florence to hang out with Big George Rogers and Ken Ard and Emerson Phillips and Alan Smothers Wednesday? Or are you going to make it, or are you going to be too busy?
Is that Wednesday morning, right? Is it Wednesday morning?
Yes, sir.
Oh, it's Wednesday morning. Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. Wednesday morning.
I guess, is it Wednesday? Okay. I guess I'll be there. I couldn't remember if it was Wednesday or Friday. It is Wednesday morning, right?
Yes, sir. I was going before I head out of town. I was going to try to get by. I was going to work a little bit, try to get by, and I'll buy you a Clemson coffee mug. You drink coffee, Phil?
A little bit, if you give me enough cream and sugar.
Okay, I'll buy you a Clemson coffee mug then.
All right, I'll take it.
Hey,
anything for free.
I will. Rivals, that's right, and we'll be a Rivals store divided. There'll be a lot of Clemson and Carolina apparel.
Yeah,
Phil, let me point something out real quick. I know South Carolina, the Gamecock Nation feels like their defense has improved and so forth because of the Florida and South Alabama performance. And let's face it, the Georgia State and South Alabama games are glorified scrimmages. I mean, and they're not going. Everything's going to be vanilla, and they're not going to show much. And I did think Ashawn Dye against the glorified scrimmage, that was a perfect storm because he's a true running back.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a really true running back. And I know you know about his recruitment and how highly touted he was coming out. And Dabo has been on him since he showed up on campus at Clemson. But I'm going to point something out, and I'm going to add, kind of see if you agree with it. South Carolina, 23-17. Their defense, they have no pass rush. I mean, it's awful. I will just flat out tell you. Now, Spurrier, I respect him, and he scares the living devil out of me because he's one of the best play callers of all time, not currently. But they have no pass rush, and I agree 110% with you. Whether it's Cole or Deshaun, they will move the ball because South Carolina is the equivalent on defense as what would you say, North Carolina, maybe? But, really, because, they have no pass rush and absolutely has troubles with any kind of motion. And like you said, just beat Tavis Scott on the jet sweep. But,
you're right. I think that we got to run to a break. South Carolina's defense, you are what you are at this stage of the season, and they're not going to just wake up this week. I know they've improved some the last couple of weeks. Even Spurrier cited that, but they are a defense with plenty of deficiencies that I think Clemson will exploit.
But they don't hang their head like they were earlier.
956-7266 is our number here on Sports Talk. Don't forget, coming up on the 13th of December, it's the South Carolina Electric Cooperative's 2014 Touchstone Energy Bowl. Please make plans to be there in Myrtle Beach for the weekend. Mr. Football will be crowned. A lot of other activities surrounding the game. On Friday night, the induction of the first members into the South Carolina Coaches Hall of Fame. That's going to be a big night. Many, many good things surrounding North-South Week, the Touchstone Energy Bowl down in Myrtle Beach. That's coming up the week of December 13th. So make your plans to be there. All right, 800-956-7266. Real quick, want to mention Citadel safety Malik Diggs, Southern Conference Defensive Player of the Week for his performance in the win over VMI. By the way, VMI has fired Sparky Woods as its coach, and Youngstown State has fired former USC offensive line coach Eric Wolford as its head coach. Where heads start to roll. And we go back to your phone calls, 800-956-7266. Earl in Woodruff. Good evening, Earl. How are you?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Man, we're doing great. How are you?
Fine, man. I'm good tonight. Hey, I love y'all show, but anybody that goes by what Clemson's done on defense this year, that's good. But what they go by on offense, they suck on offense. And our offense is a whole lot better than their offense. And I can tell you right now, I don't believe they can stop our offense. I don't care what nobody. Clemson been playing them little high school teams, so they going to get a real team Saturday. And all I want to say from then on is go Gamecocks.
You got a score for us? He's gone.
There. You know, here's the thing.
So he is confident in the Gamecock
Clemson
offense.
has played. I mean, they have played. These stats count in the fact that they're the number one rated defense. They played Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
They played Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
They played Georgia Tech. Those are all top 25 teams. Now you say, hey, they lost the game. Well, the defense still, those stats still count.
And they played two pretty good teams in Boston College and Louisville.
And North Carolina's got a very good, rolled up a bunch of yards on them, and they still did it. So, I mean, I think you are making a mistake if you completely whitewash this Clemson defense, because they have probably if you got 3 guys that'll be playing in the NFL next year, but probably a total of 5 or 6 guys at least on that defense that are going to get a paycheck on the next level in the next 3-4 years. So they have a very good defense. It is their best defense they've had at Clemson since Steve Spurrier arrived in Columbia. So they are going to have their work cut out for them. Missouri had a great defense. Florida had a great defense. The Gamecocks spun their tires a little bit against those teams. So keep that in mind.
They got off to a quick start against Florida, but then they got shut down.
They got shut down until the couple block kicks. And they still, they scored on an option play where they fumbled into the end zone. And I mean, if Florida stops that game, Florida did a very good job defensively, and Clemson's comparable to Florida, Missouri defensively, if not better.
You know, the interesting thing here, some of the wild cards, at least one wild card I don't want to see against South Carolina. It'll be interesting to see in this game, no matter who quarterbacks for Clemson, if Chad Morris moves back to what he did, and that is to pick up the pace. He has pretty much slowed down the pace of his offense, I think, much to the detriment of this offense. I think the players on this offense, the veteran players, had been trained to go, 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 go. And then since they slowed it down, I think that's kind of mired their effectiveness. So it'll be interesting to see if they try to pick up the pace.
They played at a pretty fast pace against Georgia. And remember, Clemson came right out of the locker room with Cole Stout at quarterback when he was the starting quarterback, at least publicly, and they went boom, boom, boom down the field, touchdown. But you're right. They've gotten a little more deliberate as the season has worn on. A call from Woodruff. Back to the phones, and it is Hank in Columbia listening to us on The Point in Columbia, 1470 AM and 95.9 FM, our newest affiliate in the Midlands. Hi, Hank. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Man, we're doing great. Good to have you with us.
Hey, I think that Carolina win. I don't have a score, but I will say this to some of the comments I heard. I don't discount Clemson's defense, but I really don't throw the Florida State game in there, because Florida State has had some Florida struggles on offense this year. But you got to remember, Winston didn't play. And the thing about Carolina's offense for most teams, even with Florida, when they had some struggles, is it is very balanced and was able to get yards against Florida's elite level players. I mean, Clemson has some pros, but Florida got some pros on that defense. And but once the running game got going for Carolina, which it will against Clemson, Grady Jarrett and all them guys withstanding, Carolina's offensive line is probably going to be the largest that Clemson has seen this year.
Yeah.
And if they start fouling up, getting people in the box, Spurrier, just like it helped at the end of the game with Florida, but Spurrier will, if you pile the box, he is going to use those tight ends and go against that secondary.
I don't think Clemson's going to pile the box. I think Clemson's going to play. Huh? You don't think they're going to?
You can't sell out on the run. I mean, I agree. South Carolina will be the most balanced offense that Clemson's faced because Florida State's offensive line is pretty darn good. Clemson manhandled them, and that's an upperclassman, All-America type offensive line.
I'm willing to say the Gamecock offensive line, from what I've seen, is not going to have much of a chance against this Clemson defensive front.
Grady Jarrett is we all talk about Beasley.
Hey, do you think the Gamecock offensive line can handle Clemson's defensive front, man on man?
Corn, I think if Spur decides to start playing that game where he's running, I think it can be a scenario as in Georgia's offense has been probably as underachieving as our defense has been in the last 5 or 6 games. Georgia kept on laying on them, and when they lay on them, if they get tired, we got big guys. And if you look at our last 5 games, eventually it comes down to our offensive line just laying on the defense. As well as they played good last year, when we started doing those runs, Venable said, we were just picking them up and moving them where we wanted to move.
Well, I'll say this. If South Carolina wins this game, then I will buy in to the argument that the SEC toughens up South Carolina every week, and by the time they get to Clemson, they have played physical, tough games on the road in particular, and it has them really physically and mentally ready to handle whatever Clemson can throw at them.
But one thing that has been the case, though, over the past 5 years, the team with the better defense has won this football game each of the past 5 seasons.
And the team that doesn't turn it over.
But what makes the team turn the ball over? Usually a pretty good defense. I mean, I think defenses, they call those takeaways. I know when you give it away, like, oh, we turned it over. But, last year, Chaz Sutton ripped that ball away from Taj Boyd. I mean, he went in there and manhandled, just grabbed the thing away from him. He took it. That's a takeaway. So that's what would worry me if I'm South Carolina. I think even if Cole Stout plays, he can stand back there. USC gets little to no pass rush, and he can hit the middle of the field, which is still more times than not wide open. South Alabama was picking up third down after third down on slant plays, those passes in the middle. Maybe Clemson found a little something with the running game with Tyshawn Dye. They're playing at home. I think it's going to be tough sledding for the Gamecocks offensively. Now, if Clemson turns the ball over, gets bogged down, the fans start getting antsy, or they get in their own way, certainly the Gamecocks are more than capable of beating them. They've been in every game this year. I mean, South Carolina, other than the opener, they have had an opportunity to win or lose every game they've played this season. Had a lead in the fourth quarter in a lot of those.
The other key point is this, and I think Brent Venables, and every coach does it every practice, but I think Clemson probably does it more this week, is that it's interesting to note that Dylan Thompson, his first time going into Clemson starting, he looked very comfortable the entire game, but that defense pretty much shut down Clemson. When he gets overly excited, those balls come out high. And if they're tipped, that could be some opportunities for the tip drill for Clemson's defense. So that's something you have to watch out for, too, if he gets wild high.
Thank you for your phone call. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. We'll continue with calls in a moment. Steve Spurrier comments coming up. Chad Morris as well. We'll be back in a second. Take a break from the USC Clemson talk for a couple of minutes to welcome in David Shelton of the High School Sports Report for tonight's High School Football Report on Sports Talk, brought to you by South Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance. Good to see David today over at the news conference at the High School League offices, previewing the 1A and 2A championship games. David, first of all, what do you take from the conversations you had with the various coaches today? What kind of overall general feel did you get from them?
Well, it's the typical, coach speak. Everybody thinks that the other team is so much better and so more athletic, and there wasn't any major revelations made. I think the 2A games stack up. I think really all four of those games stack up to be pretty competitive games. I wouldn't anticipate any team blowing out anybody. I think Dillon and Newberry, a contrast in styles, and possibly, Newberry could make that game close. That'll be an interesting game to watch. Keenan and Timberland, a lot of great athletes on the field there. Again, two teams that kind of do things differently, but both basically explosive in what they do. And then the A games, HKT is defending champ. Lakeview's won 9 state titles, and then in the other game, Christchurch puts their streak on the line, which is now, I guess, 52 or so, against a real athletic Bamberg Earhart team. So I think all four of those games look to be very competitive, close games. I guess if you had to pick one, maybe Dillon would get away from Newberry with the way they played, but Newberry beat Woodruff and Fairfield Central in consecutive weeks, so they're playing pretty good football right now.
Is there any team in the championship round that just shocks you by being there?
Not really. No, maybe Keenan. I guess if you had to pick one, I would say Keenan, just because Keenan's never been there. So for one, and then to see what they've done in the playoffs, they went and won at Central, and then they beat Chesney at Chesney, scored 60 points in that game, and then they beat 96 last week. So probably 96 was the only game they might have been a favored in. So, the fact that they're there for the very first time, it's a basketball school, and Quinn McCullum has done a great job in 2 years there. And, they got athletes, and now they just got them pointed in the right direction.
You like the way the semifinals shape up in the 2 4A groups and 3A?
Yeah. I think the Hartsville Marlboro County, gosh, I wonder how many people will be at that game. That's just a classic rivalry type setting. I think the AC Flora upper state championship against South Point. South Point, a lot of people expected to be there. AC Flora, maybe not, but they've played very well all year, very consistent, except for that one little slip up during the regular season. And then in the 4As, you got the Fort Dorchester, Hillcrest, you got Burns, Dutch Fork. They all shape up to pretty much what we thought we'd get.
David, thanks, man. Have yourself a great rest of the week and Thanksgiving, and we will catch up with you on Friday to get a final preview of, a review of the championship games and preview of next week. Be right back.
Okay, we got out of the game with a few minor injuries. We hope we're not going to be too serious.
I know tomorrow is Talking Tuesday, and we'll dive headlong into that on the program tomorrow night. Talking Tuesday, we'll hear from the head coaches. But to give you a little taste of what, not the head coaches totally, but for as far as representatives of the two programs are thinking, to give you a little taste of what's going through their minds, I'm going to bring you a little Steve Spurrier and Chad Morris. Spurrier had his Sunday conference call yesterday to wrap up the win over South Alabama and to begin looking ahead to Clemson.
Okay, we got out of the game with a few minor injuries. We hope we're not going to be too serious. Darrell Adams, oblique strain. Gerald Dixon and Alan Knott had an AC sprain. Fayetteville Cooper had sort of a little rib sprain in there. He'll be out a few days, hopefully okay by the weekend. And again, Rico McWilliams had a severe concussion, so he's out. He's not going to play for a while. And hopefully, though, he's going to come around and be okay. But he did get knocked out there in the second quarter, I believe it was. But other than that, we got most of the guys ready to play, and looking forward to going up to Clemson and giving it our best shot Saturday at noon. Sort of glad it's a noon game. Seems like we've had better success this year at 12 noon than it's late at night. But it should be a heck of a game. We're looking forward to going up there and seeing what happens.
Steve, this is David Caravella in Charleston. I know the defense has kind of turned it around the last 2 weeks, but do you have a sense for how tough this year has been for Coach Ward in terms of trying to figure all this out and doing it all under kind of a microscope?
Well, we just kept plugging along, and we're not in the bottom now. I think Texas A&M sort of reclaimed the bottom total defense in the conference this week. So we've clawed our way out of there, and we're making improvements. And of course, that's what you look for as the season goes, is get better toward the latter part of the year. So Coach Ward, Botkin, Adams, all those guys have hung in there and kept the faith, and the players have. Players have done a very good job practicing and getting themselves ready to play. And obviously, this is our big game of the year now. We're not in contention for any divisions or SEC stuff. So this is the state championship game, and we got to get ready to go up there and play our best game of the year. Very impressed with Clemson's defense, number one in the nation. Number one in the nation. That's a good defense. That's the best in the country. So we'll have our hands full trying to move the ball. Hopefully our defense can really help to play also.
Steve, this is Matt with the Herald Journal. Without knowing what Pat's going to play right now, how does the defense kind of prepare at the beginning of this week?
I think we'll prepare pretty much their offense, what they do, their runs, their passes, their formations, like we do every week. I don't know how different their offense is between the two quarterbacks, if they're in there or not in there. Obviously, the Watson kid was spectacular when he played this year. But I guess we'll wait till Saturday to see who jogs out there first.
Hey, Coach, Aaron Brenner, also from Charleston here. Every year's a new year. You guys have had your share of struggles. Clemson's had your share of struggles. But can your guys take some extra confidence just being that nobody in your locker room has lost to Clemson?
You know, I don't think we'll talk about that too much. I don't believe last year's game, the years before, have too much to do with the one at hand. Every game sort of stands on its own merit. Every team has a chance to prepare this week, get ready for each other, and go play the game. So that's really what we'll be trying to concern ourselves with, is having a good, solid game plan and trying our best to execute it to come out and win.
All right, Steve Spurrier from his conference call. More from him tomorrow on a Talking Tuesday, which, of course, is brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at sesoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. We'll hear from Dabo Swinney tomorrow as well. But Chad Morris, the Tigers offensive coordinator, met with the media today. And, of course, it was the assistant coaches, according to Swinney, who came up with the idea of the countdown clock. And so Morris is fully aware of what this game means, and he knows how badly his players and the Tiger fans want to win this thing.
We'll definitely be ready by the time Saturday gets here. But, yeah, it's an exciting time, a great week. It's always a fun week. Every week, it's pretty much a season within itself. And, you pretty much what's gone on beforehand is irrelevant at this point. It comes down to the last game of the season, but a fun week, exciting week.
Dabo said yesterday that Sean will get back on the field a little bit today. Just what do you hope to see from him today, or is it just like you don't have any expectations?
Well, you really don't know until he gets out there and see, just to see what he can do. That's hard to tell right at this point. He'll get out there today and go and how much and how many reps and how fast. I don't know that. We don't know that, and probably won't know that until through the course of the week. So we'll see. We'll see how it is.
The body of work you've had here has been extraordinary, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Except for these guys, they've been able to kind of slow this offense down a little bit. Is this as simple as, hey, their personnel's in the NFL too, the same way our personnel was? Is it as simple as that?
Well, I think you look at a lot of different things, and I think one of the main things is I thought we played really well last year offensively. Thought we played extremely well. I think I know we turned the ball over 2 times late in the game, and we were behind and pressing. Thought we ran the ball efficiently, but I thought, when you look at the history of this game over the last 5 years, it boils down to turnovers. And when you put yourself behind the 8 ball, so to speak, it's against a quality opponent. It doesn't really matter who you play. It's tough to catch up. I think we've proven that this year as well. And so, I think turnovers have been a huge part of this ball game. And we've played well as an entire unit, as a team.
How much did the Sammy interception last year when you guys were moving down the field, how much did that change momentum for you guys?
Well, yeah, I think it was open to drive the game. I mean, it's hard to tell at this stage, going back and thinking about it. He had Adam open up the sidelines. He held the ball a little long, and if he just dumps it right over the top, Adam scores. But he held the ball a little long. They came over and pick it off, and obviously we were going in to score. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely had a little effect on the momentum. Yeah.
You talked about the turnover. Do you think that is guys that just fit in this situation? Because there were a lot more turnovers in the last year than there have been.
Right. Well, again, it's when you go and you study the turnovers that have happened in this game. I mean, you had 2 on punt last year, where it just basically bounces off one of the guys' helmets. I mean, was the guy too tense? I don't know if that's the case or not. I just think it's just been part of it. It's hard to explain. If anybody can explain the turnovers and why they happen and how they happen, I mean, you'll. I know there's a lot of coaches that'll subscribe to whatever you're going to offer on that, but I don't know if that's been the case over the last few years. I think our guys, we've prepared good. We've had great weeks of practice. We've been loose at practice. It's not going to change this week. This is going to be a fun week. We're excited about this week, and I think the worst thing you can do is come in and put so much pressure on these guys. I mean, they understand the magnitude of this game. I mean, it's they live it, we live it. But hey, we're going to have fun with it, and we're going to go out. We're going to prepare this week like we have every other week, and come out and play and play loose and have fun with it. And that, again, that's what you can do at this stage.
All right, Clemson offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Chad Morris talked with the media earlier today, and several of the Tiger players also talked with the media, and they all expressed the same level of confidence as you would expect them to do. And we'll hear from Sweeney tomorrow along with Spurrier. Back in a moment.
what a gutsy win this was today. Your defense really needed to step up, and it seemed like the most opportune times it did.
Yeah, this is a great win. I'm really proud of our kids. Guys felt like momentum was going their way. We were fortunate they missed a couple of free throws.
All right, we're back, and we're going to get back to your calls in just a moment. But Clemson basketball did have a very nice win today down in the islands, defeating LSU 64-61. So they go 2 out of 3 at the Paradise Jams tournament, or Paradise Jam, singular. Here is the Tigers head coach, Brad Brown, his post-game conversation with the voice of Clemson basketball, Tony Castricone, courtesy of Learfield Sports, and he talks about the importance of getting this win.
Yeah, this is a great win. I'm really proud of our kids. Guys fought hard here to find a way to win this one. This one was starting to get away just a little bit in the second half. It felt like momentum was going their way. We were fortunate they missed a couple free throws, and then we had a couple big plays, a couple big stops. Guys did their job. Dante obviously hit the big three, made free throws down the stretch. JB had an incredible tip-in on a missed shot by Noko. That was a good play. I thought we really executed well down the stretch on both ends. We guarded twice. We guarded great plays for threes for them, where we kept Hornsby from getting a three on some different looks that we practiced and walked through, and our guys really did a great job on some switches and some handoff defense there. And then obviously we were just fortunate that in that last scramble that they missed that shot at the top.
Jerron Blossom game really hasn't found it from the floor. He goes 4 of 16, but he stays on the floor because of just hustle play after hustle play. And it seemed like that one tap back that he had left to the rim here in a critical position might have been the play of the game.
It was a great play. We had 2 or 3 plays like that. Dante Grantham's tip to DeMarcus that led to a dunk was just an incredible headsy play. 50-foot tip pass that showed his smarts is really what it showed, his basketball IQ. And this was a really gritty win by our guys. They were excited to play today. I thought we would play well. It was interesting to see the way the game went. I thought it went back and forth at times. And then I felt there for just a little bit. We had a couple bad turnovers, and it looked like it was going to get away from us, but we got them settled back down in a timeout. Guys came out and executed really well down the stretch. This is one of those wins you're really proud of your guys because of the way they won the game by going out and finding a way at the end and playing really good basketball down the stretch.
You know, it's funny. You guys were first place in the ACC last year in free throw shooting. Numbers-wise, it hasn't quite been there yet this year. But Landry Noko made 2 huge free throws to keep you guys in this game. And then I thought Rod Hall went to the line. He hit 2 big ones after you guys had gone 3.5 minutes without a field goal. Hall's free throws cut it to 2 when you're down by 4, and then he seals the game at the line as well.
Rod played pretty well. It was a tough day. I mean, that Josh Gray is a handful. He is so quick. Defensively, you're on call every set. And then offensively, it's hard because he's up into you, and he got Rod once. But Rod just found ways. He's been a guy that's been in a lot of tough plays, a lot of big games. And, he set a great screen to roll back to get open for the ball, to get the ball when we wanted him to get it on a foul situation, and he knocked him down. So, he did some really good things against a very good guard.
All right, Brad Brownell, Tony Castricone, the voice of Clemson basketball after the Tigers win today over LSU. And they'll be back in action Friday at Little John Coliseum against High Point, I do believe. And we go back to your phone calls here in our final minutes tonight on Sports Talk. Let's go to Rick in Newberry. Hi, Rick. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Okay, not being originally from South Carolina, I don't really have a favorite team, but I just want to wish both teams good luck.
But if you had to pick one to win, you would pick which one?
I like Dylan Thomas.
You like him personally, or you like him as a quarterback?
As a quarterback.
Okay.
I think I'll go with South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. By what score?
35-28.
put a lot of thought on this.
35-28, 35
takes
points
a holiday
on that Clemson defense. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and we appreciate your phone call. 35-28, he sees the Gamecocks having not much trouble with Clemson's defense. 800-956-7266. K-Mac, the Twitter timeline has been buzzing tonight. What have you done?
Oh, no, actually, we just had a lot of people sending their pictures that they thought best summed up the rivalry and humor, or just captured the spirit of the rivalry, and we've just been retweeting those.
Anything jump out at you?
Oh, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, there's so many.
They could be read on
the
the air.
gravestone that had the guy that said, "I'd still rather be here than at Clemson."
Oh no.
One USC's tradition, and they have a picture of the 1969 ACC championship. And they have Clemson tradition. They have all the ACC titles, inside each stadium. A lot of good stuff. We've retweeted a lot of them, posted some of the better ones on our Facebook page, Sports Talk Radio Network. Facebook.com/Sports Talk Radio Network.
If people put all this creativity to work for something really important, this world might be better off instead of wasting it on this. Be right back. We got time for a couple of more calls. All right, going to jump on the program in our final minutes, 800-956-7266. This note, Clemson linebacker Stephon Anthony and defensive tackle Grady Jarrett among 41 players who've accepted invitations to the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama on January 24th. To the email box we go, email box talkback at sportstalksc.com. This is from Ira. What did Todd Gurley do to the Clemson defensive line that you keep talking about online tonight? You say Carolina basically does not even have a chance to move the ball against Clemson, but Georgia was pretty successful running the ball against them, and I think that was because of their balance. Several other things to think about when Clemson played Florida State. Clemson had the advantage the whole night because they knew this quarterback never started a game before in college. So what did Clemson have to do? Just stop the run, load the box, and have fun, but they still lost in the end. Georgia Tech game, they knew what was going to happen with the run, so they loaded up the box. Carolina has several advantages that can beat you with the run or the pass. They have shown throughout the year if you stop one part of the game, they'll use the other part of the game. I think this balance will make it difficult, but who knows? You can never tell in this game. Well, this is true. I would give Georgia's offensive line well, I think if South Carolina comes out with the mindset of being physical and trying to run the ball, I think their offensive line will do well. I'm not so sure about this offensive line pass protecting against Clemson's defense and keeping Dylan Thompson upright throughout the ball game. This could be a game where Clemson, could have 3 or 4 sacks and force the Gamecocks into some second and third and longs and create some mistakes that way.
That's why it's important if you're Spurrier and you're going up top for a big play, it's sort of a gamble, but you got to do it on first down. I think you're going to see a lot of first down throw early in the football game, because I think whoever gets the lead in the football game gets a psychological edge in this football game.
Well, no lead is safe when you're talking about South Carolina. I still think that this defense is going to be a little tougher than a lot of Gamecock fans think. But I don't disagree that this will be the most balanced offense that Clemson's played this year.
All right, one joke into us here from Craig. A redneck, a Dumbo, and a car salesman walk into a bar. The bartender says, "What will you be having, Coach Sweeney?"
Oh, no.
Boom, boom.
Oh, no.
Can I get a little bit of little drum action there?
We don't have a rim shot back
We don't
there.
have the rim shot ready, huh? That's our ace production crew, always ready with the finger on the trigger there. All right, that will do it. Thanks to Dalton Abel for stepping in tonight and producing up a storm, assisting the state man. Thank you, K-Mac. Have a good time at USC tomorrow. I'll be at Clemson. Pro, you have a nice day. Everybody rejoin us tomorrow night. Talking Tuesday. We'll see you then.